In a project-based learning environment, again, management is one of the greatest issues. This video is actually going to take a look at the idea of contracts and what they can do for you. So when we talk about contracts, we have to first get to the point of having a team. So rather than calling it a group, we actually want to talk about it, referring to it as teaming, because they are indeed working as a team to accomplish a common goal. So questions that always come up: how many team members should there be? And who should I put on my team? Well, honestly, those team members, this becomes a major management issue. Members of that team, how many should there be? That is completely up to you. There is no right or wrong answer here. Could you have teams of 2? Yes. Could you have teams of 3? Absolutely. How about teams of 4? Sure. How about 6? Sure. I personally like to stay 4 or 5 and under, but you could make it however many you want to. You could have an entire class technically acting as a team. Now, the crucial part in creating your team size is you don't have to make them so that they're exactly the same. You can create your teams in any way you want to. There isn't one magic right way to be able to make a team. So who should be on the team? That's completely up to the teacher. Can you have 2 students pick their own teams? Absolutely. Sometimes it's very beneficial. Other times, not so much. It has to be what's going to be best fit for that project for those students at that time. So the goal is to make sure that you're having the best situation for the students as you possibly can. Teams allow for and build in, without even trying, the idea of collaboration and communication skills. So, can we use and assess some of those pieces of the collaboration rubric from the 21st century rubrics? Absolutely. How about communication? Absolutely. So it's really easy once you have students in teams to be able to assess their ability to collaborate and their ability to communicate. So accessing those 21st century skills and looking at those rubrics is something you're going to want to make sure you take a look at as you're creating your teams. Now, obviously, teamwork can be very difficult, especially for some students. Some students assume that if they're in a team, well, then someone else is going to do the work. Or that one person who always does the work for the team is not going to be benefiting from the teamwork either. So how can I make sure that everyone does their work? Well, the crucial part to that is a contract. So I have some documents that I have attached here that I'm going to put into Moodle as well. But these are some pieces to make sure that you take a look at and understand some of the pieces you can do with a contract. Contracts are your safeguard. They allow for students to take ownership of their team and make rules about what they can and cannot do in their group. Now, that being said, you do want to make sure that you look at that contract and approve it before they actually sign it. Now, again, signing contracts can be done in different ways. In the old days, I used to have them print and sign their contracts. I also used to, at one point, actually have to have them handwrite contracts and then sign them. I don't do that anymore. I now use, because everyone has their own personal learning device, I have everybody do a Google Doc. They share their information. They create one document that is indeed their contract, and then I have each one of the students sign their name using just either the touch where they're trying to write on it, which doesn't work with Google. So instead, what I do is I have them sign or type their name using their tablet. It can only be their tablet, so that I can go back and look at the revision history and see when they did indeed type their name in agreement with the contract. Now, with those contracts, one of the pieces that always comes up is group grades. Well, does everybody in the group get the same grade? The answer is no. Now, there is a group portion that they would all get the same grade for. Now, if their contract states that they have other pieces that account into their grade, and you have approved it, then you can go ahead and have them have different parts of their group project having different grades. Now, you want to make sure that you do incorporate group projects and individual portions of that group project as well. That's where we get that individuality. If there's an individual portion of the project and a group portion of the project, that means the students need to accomplish both pieces in order to get their full assessment or their full grade. Now, that being said, the individual portion should be of equal or more value than the group portion so that they do indeed complete it, and that their group project portion does not affect their grade. Now, a couple of these documents are really to show you what can be included or what a contract looks like. So this first one is what to include in a contract. Now, when you look at this, you're going to see what projects, what kind of things you want to have in a project. You can have all sorts of different formats, and it gives you some examples that you can use if you'd like to. We do want to make sure that they do indeed have a contract that they can use and fill out. They have some questions that they can answer, or content questions that they might want to have in their contract. So this is one piece that they can look at. Another one is giving them an actual sample, and these are two different samples of contracts, so take a look at each one of them. This first one is a very simplified contract. In this contract, it's really saying, okay, so who are my group members, what is their job, and what kind of tasks are they going to be doing. They are also looking at what kind of expectations does my group have, and then what kind of accountability is there. So accountability basically means, what am I going to do if they don't follow the rules that are set up. Now, this is something that they can indeed create on their own. So in this case, this contract creates what they call a conflict chart, meaning you look at that conflict chart and then you do document one of the issues. You document what happens on that conflict chart so they can keep track of it, and you email everybody so that everybody knows, and then we keep going from there. So verbal warning, in this case, 1 or 2, and then meeting with the facilitator. The facilitator is going to be the teacher, and then if that doesn't work, you could dismiss the person from the group. And this does actually add quite a bit of incentive for our students, because they do know that they can get kicked out of the group. Doesn't mean that they are, but it can. And it's really hard to do a group project that's supposed to be done in, like, say 3 weeks, where you have an individual and a group portion all by yourself. This is another contract. This one is another sample contract, of a contract that's a little bit more in depth, and it does include a template that they can use. Now, you have to be comfortable with a lot of the pieces in this, or you need to go through and edit to make sure that it works for you. So they actually create a constitution. They have an absence policy, work policy. They actually, in this one, have an article about leadership and how that leadership would actually, what their job would be and what they get out of it, because they would actually get extra points from it. They have a work ethics piece, and then they also have a dismissal piece. That's very important that it's something you are comfortable with when you're looking at creating contracts. Now, the whole point of that contract is to give the students an opportunity to take ownership of their project, and not only take ownership of their project, but to be able to have control over how your groups work. The contract is really set up to benefit the students and benefit their work. Now, one of the questions that always comes up is, what happens to that student that is fired? Well, the student is responsible for doing the work on their own, and of course that part becomes difficult for teachers and for students. Now, that also means that students who do get dismissed probably will never be dismissed from another group again, because they don't want to have to do all the work by themselves. That, or they've already chosen to fail. I usually do make some sort of contact with parents if there is an issue, and let them know that they have been already warned in their group and about what they have not been doing, to get support from parents at home. In addition to that, I also will contact parents and let them know that they have been removed from a group, and that they are responsible and still have the opportunity to earn their grade as much as possible, but that they do have a shortened period of time. I usually do put a qualification that they can't remove a person from a group within a certain time frame before the end of the project, especially if it's a very long-term project. Many of my projects are about 3 to 4 weeks long, and if they are working for anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks depending on the project, it is literally impossible to kick somebody out and expect them to be able to pick up and take care of all of their materials before, if they've only been given 1 or 2 days to get it done. Now, contracts really do help the students be held accountable and it gives them something to go to if they're having struggles within their group. But it is crucial that you know what their contract says and that you're able to help them facilitate the communication that's necessary for them to be successful. Alright, this is contracts and a little bit about classroom management in project-based learning environment.